Welcome.
Bienvenido.
And welcome in, travelers. You're listening to the Wanderlusting Wives podcast. We're your podcast for escaping life's monotony, indulging in your wildest travel fantasies, and discovering the constant beauty of this ever-changing world.
You may experience some turbulence along the way, so buckle up and keep your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the vehicle as we wander on to our next destination.
On today's episode, we're going to be wrapping up Season 1 with some reflections on our very first season and looking ahead to some exciting new announcements about Season 2.
Welcome to the Wanderlusting Wives podcast. We're your navigators, Allison
and Regan. And today is the last episode of Season 1. I can't believe we've made it. Give a quick woot woot. Go team.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sticking it out with us, or if you joined us midway, we just appreciate you all so much. But so today's our last episode, and we're going to do some reflecting on Season 1 and then look ahead to Season 2. We've got a lot of really fun stuff planned for Season 2. We just spent a weekend of planning together in person. It was very exciting. But then also, so you know, we're going to take a little bit of a break for a few weeks in between seasons so that we can spend some time with families and friends over this holiday season. And then we'll be back at it in mid-January. So just be on the lookout on our social media for some fun announcements too that we have. And then also when you can catch us for Season 2. So as always, here's our icebreaker, our last one for Season 1. Your favorite travel moment from 2022. Allie, go ahead.
Well, I can't believe we're already reflecting on Season 1. First of all, I don't know how the year went by that fast, but boy, has it been such a fun adventure trying to figure this all out. And I'm really excited for Season 2. But I don't want to get off on a tangent with that. We'll dive into that a little bit more. But my favorite travel moment from 2022 was probably going out west with my family. And that was my husband's first time seeing the West Coast for more than 24 hours. He had been to California before for a brief conference, so it was nice for him to be able to see some national parks and see more of the beauty that the West Coast has to offer. How about you, Regan?
Yeah, that's a pretty religious experience when you've never seen the West Coast before and then you do. So that's super cool. And it's special to share things with the people you love. We've talked about that before too. Oh man, this is tough, but I think my favorite was sipping margaritas on the rooftop bar in Mazatlan back in May on our cruise for the Mexican Riviera. That was just such a surreal, beautiful afternoon, not a care in the world. And I think pretty much daily about wanting to be back there. So I feel like if it's consistently in my brain, it's probably one of my top moments from 2022. But there were a lot. Were there a lot for you too? Was this a hard one to come up with?
Yes and no. I didn't do a lot of traveling this year, but it is hard to pick just one when you have tons of experiences, even just on one trip.
Yeah, honestly. Well, and we're going to get into kind of a little bit more of some of those moments from 2022. We're each going to do a little bit of a travel recap of what we did because you didn't necessarily hear about everything that we did and everywhere we went this year. So, Ellie, you want to get us started with kind of a recap of your travel from this year?
Yeah, so like I was saying before, I didn't really do a ton of traveling this year. I did have an out west trip that I did with my family, and we did Nevada, Utah, Arizona, in Nevada specifically, Las Vegas, and then the Hoover Dam. And we went in July, or end of June, early July, and it was toasty. So if you're planning to go out west and you're from the East Coast, just be prepared that you might melt a little bit, but it's totally worth it. And then Utah, we did Zion. I just love that park. It's a smaller national park, but it's just so beautiful. I can't even talk right now because I'm just thinking about how gorgeous it is. And then Arizona, we did Phoenix, Grand Canyon, Horseshoe Bend, and Antelope Canyon, which were new ones for me, and they were phenomenal. And then every year, my mom's side of the family gets together for Thanksgiving, and we went to North Carolina to see her side of the family. And then the usual trip back home at some point throughout the summer, back to our little hometown of Medina. Always have to go back there to see Regan and other friends and family. So that's my short little recap. Not a lot of adventures, but enough to get me through a year. I can handle one trip. That's good for me.
Yeah, and also like we're still bouncing back. Travel's still bouncing back after the pandemic, and like going out west, that's an awesome trip and doing all of that. And we've talked on this podcast too about how like even if it's just a trip home to Medina or something, like just getting out there and doing it and making those little trips, that's still traveling. It's still fun. You're still making memories, which is really at the base of what I think we both kind of think is important about traveling. So yeah, my travel this year, I actually did more than I thought I did. I went out to Phoenix to visit my brother and sister-in-law and meet my nephew. There were lots of fun memories there. Scoop Wells is one of my favorites, and I actually met up with our foreign exchange student that we had back when I was in high school, Mariana. She was from Mexico, and now she's living in Phoenix, so I got reunited with her after a few years. But then I went on a Mexican Riviera cruise, stopped in Phoenix again to see my brother and sister-in-law and nephew. And then that went out of Long Beach, California, then went to Puerto Vallarta, Mazatlan, and Cabo. And let me tell you, Cabo's the weirdest place ever after 10 a.m. I don't understand why it is. Well, I understand for like party college students, but like, oh my goodness, 10 a.m. hit. And it was like, I feel like this is not okay anymore. But it was a really, really great trip. Went to West Canada Creek to go tubing down the creek in the Adirondacks. Went to New York City a couple times for work. One time I went on my own for an impromptu trip to see Moulin Rouge on Broadway, but did see a couple of other shows, Yankees game, walked Cornelia Street for all the Taylor Swift fans out there. I had to do it, never done it before. Went to the Thousand Islands a couple times to go boating. Went to Waterville Valley, New Hampshire for a wedding. Really, really fun wedding. And then I went to Disney and like Madeira Beach with my mom for a week. And we did Disney in a day, which we made a social media reel about. And that was a ton of fun. And then we spent the rest of the week kind of sipping daiquiris at the Daiquiri Shack and beaching and thrift shopping. And then I actually got to catch up with Nolan's nanny. That's my husband, Nolan. His nanny lives in Clearwater, Florida. And so we caught up with her. Then I spent a week in the Outer Banks, North Carolina, with my entire family, all 13 of us, in a 4-story house that was pretty awesome. We went to Jockey's Ridge State Park, which is these huge sand dunes, and my puppy Remy loved that, just running up and down the sand dunes. He was very tired, and I was very appreciative. And then this past weekend, we went down to Pittsburgh to visit Allie and Nate, and we had a really great weekend. It was so whirlwind, but it was so awesome to just like hang out. And Allie and I both got piercings. We were kind of like living on the edge. I got my nose pierced, and Allie got her doth, or as we thought it was pronounced, daith, pierced. Yeah, and then we spent some time planning for season 2. But Allie, I want to hear your experience getting your piercing.
I'm not sure why I thought that was a good idea. It looks really cool, but it was extremely painful, and I wouldn't really recommend it unless you're feeling pretty bold. I clearly did not do enough research to know that it is going to be one of the most painful piercings you can get. So think about that before you go and get stabbed.
Yeah, we were here thinking, oh, it's gonna be easy, and like mine was fairly easy. You know, it's a needle going through your nose. But Allie's face as this piercing was happening, I was like, man, this is enough pain for 2 years for her. But they waited until after to tell her it is one of the most painful piercings. So she's a crazy woman, but it looks great, and we did it.
We are here to tell about it.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, that's a very quick recap of our traveling for 2022, and we look forward to some traveling in 2023, which we're going to get to in just a second. But before we do that, we want to keep talking a little bit more about season 1. So, Allie, do you want to tell us what our Spotify Wrapped told us?
Yeah, so we had no idea that Anchor was going to create a Spotify Wrapped for us. So it was a really nice surprise when we opened it up the one day. Like, oh, hey, we have a Spotify Wrapped. Which is really awesome to see. You know, if you're on Instagram or anything, it's such a big hype when everyone's Spotify Wrapped drops. You get to see the artists that everyone's listening to, and it's fun to compare. But we have one for our podcast that we did not make up on our own. This is actual data that Spotify pulled for us. And some of the stats were surprising, and I was like, oh, a little pat on the back for us because it was a nice surprise. But we had more than 650 minutes of content. That was before our last episode and this episode, so more than that. We have our top 5 countries that listen to our podcast are the US, of course, then Mexico, Turkey, our favorite, Iceland, and then Australia. I was so excited when I saw that Iceland was on the list. I don't know how we got anyone from Iceland to listen to our podcast. Maybe it's just they search keywords and they see that we say that in like every other episode. So they figure we should listen to our podcast, but we appreciate you. Also, we are in the top 25% of most followed podcasts. And then our podcast listener personality is the enthusiast, which makes sense because we want to bring joy and excitement into the travel world and into your lives. So we're excited to see that the personality of our listeners are the enthusiasts.
Oh, I love that. So yeah, thank you to all of you for making season 1 so awesome. We literally went into this knowing nothing.
Yeah, it was almost like a joke. We're like, oh, we should just start a travel podcast. Haha. And now we're like, we love this and spent probably at least 4 hours planning this weekend, this past weekend, and we have more that we want to plan. So we're all in now. There's no going back now. So we're excited.
Yeah. Yeah, if you couldn't tell, we're super excited for season 2, and we keep wanting to jump to 2023, but we have one last reflection for 2022, and that is related to our podcast specifically. So Allie, what were some of your favorite podcast memories from this year?
Yeah, this year, I'm absolutely blown away by the wonderful guests we've had. Banff, our episode with Banff with Ted Craig from the travel podcast The World. I know Regan and I say this for almost every episode, but we're ready to pack our bags, and they're practically already halfway packed for each location these people are talking about. But Banff has been at the top of our list for a very long time, and then Ted just sealed the deal for us. And then our most recent guest that we were on his podcast and he was on ours is Steve Silverman from World Gone Good, and he is in the episode of the most powerful travel stories. And if you haven't checked that out, I highly recommend it because you will feel moved and inspired, and if you don't already love travel, you will fall in love with travel just based on his powerful stories. And then just connecting with people from all over the world in the podcast and travel community, connecting on social media, through emails. It's been amazing to just hear people's stories and see that this kind of is really a small world. There's a lot of people that have similar interests and passions, and we're all humans at the end of the day and just want to live our life and live it to the fullest. So I've really enjoyed connecting with everyone this season. How about you?
Yeah, and I don't know that we specifically said this, Allie, but correct me if I'm wrong. For me, I know at least as we were planning for season 2, and here we go talking about season 2 before we haven't even wrapped up season 1 yet. But these stories that Steve told, or people from around the world have told, that's been kind of the catalyst for our inspiration for season 2. And we'll get more into detail on it in this episode and then as we get closer to launching season 2. But we just really want to hone in on storytelling, because you don't need to be a travel expert to travel or to love travel or to have those memories. So that's just a little sprinkle of a hint here, but I'll just wrap this up real quick with my favorite podcast memories from this year. I'm a huge Disney World nerd. I think Disney is fascinating as a company, and I know probably more about it than I should. So it was really special for me to be able to geek out about it in like kind of a professional way. So the Disney episodes were really fun for me, and the Disney roundtable with my siblings was really fun. I, like Allie, I loved getting to know our guests. That was super fun. Another one of my favorite episodes was the national parks episode, actually. So like check that out. That was a lot of fun. And then I honestly, just this last weekend, sitting down and planning for season 2, I'm really excited, y'all. I'm excited. So that's my memories from this season. Let's not hold off anymore. Let's go on to 2023.
And now a quick word from our sponsor. Newsly is an all-in-one audio super app for iOS and Android. It picks up the most trending articles on the web on topics you choose at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice. The entire web becomes listenable for the first time, all in one place. Browse articles from topics you choose and start playing. Stop scrolling and start listening. You can follow any topic as specific as you like, from sports, tech, business, science, Bitcoin, or even the Kardashians. It will find you the latest articles and read them to you aloud. And the best part, they have podcasts. Explore trending podcasts from over 80 countries. You can even find us there. I started using it as my default podcast app. They even have a digital radio. Download and use Newsly for free now at www.newsly.me or from the link in the description, and use promo code WIVES. That's WIVES. And you can get a 1-month free premium subscription. You can find all this information in our description from this episode. And now back to our episode.
So for 2023, let's start personal, and then we'll get into some more details. We'll hold everyone in suspense for a little longer. But Allie, what's your travel New Year's resolution?
Yeah, I kind of feel like influencers right now, we have this really big thing coming, but you have to wait for 6 years before we actually tell you. So you can message us begging us to tell you early. But we are not like that. I promise we will let you know by the end of this episode. But it's just funny that we kind of are holding it back, but we will spill the beans here in a second. But my travel New Year's resolution for 2023, and it has been one for a very long time, is to travel with Regan and Nolan. We've gone to New York to see them and my family, but they've also come to us to see us. So it would be nice to just travel. We don't have kids. We have pets. So we can have a little bit more freedom than if we had kids. So we want to try to get out as much traveling as we can with Regan and Nolan before our lives are tied down a bit more in a couple of years. With children. So hopefully we can find some time, even if it's just a weekend trip. We would love to spend more time with Regan and Nolan, and traveling is just a passion we both have, clearly, and we're trying to get our husbands to be more passionate about it as well.
Yes, absolutely. I am so down. I know we spent some time trying to figure out what that looks like, and I totally, yes, let's make it happen. And I would love to go somewhere new this year, even if it's nearby. So maybe we can merge the two and go somewhere nearby for a weekend trip as two couples. Travel New Year's resolutions, we're going to make them happen. But for now, what travel do you have planned for next year?
Yeah, nothing crazy. My family usually goes on a trip every summer, and we're throwing around the idea of going on a baseball trip, hitting a bunch of different stadiums. I'd say in the Midwest, Detroit, Chicago, that kind of thing. Also, Nate and I got married in 2020 and have yet to go on a honeymoon or an anniversary trip because, yay, travel has been shut down. But it's okay. We're going to get there. So maybe we will do that in May. And then Nate's work is flying everyone out to Chicago for a weekend, including the spouses. So I'm going to be going to Chicago, whether that be on the baseball trip and the trip with Nate's work, maybe one of them. But I'll be in Chicago at least once this year. So how about you, Regan?
All right. And also, if you're in Chicago, hit us up. I'm I don't know. I'm putting that out there for you, Allie.
Yeah, that would be good because I've been to Chicago once and I did not have a pleasant experience. I was trapped in the airport for days. So I would love for Chicago to redeem itself.
All right. So next year I am going to Phoenix for the Taylor Swift concert opening weekend. I am super excited. And then I'm just going to stay in Phoenix for a week visiting my brother and sister-in-law. We might do some good stuff, but there's always good food out there. I always can count on that. So that's really what I look forward to. And then I'm going to Disney with my family at the end of May. Really excited about that. It kind of came out of nowhere and I'm like, okay, guess we're going to Disney, but I'm not going to complain. My family's very generous and I'm excited. And then we're hoping to do a trip with Nolan's side of the family actually as well. So it's going to be a year of family vacations. That's going to be maybe Georgia, Tennessee, a situation of like renting a house and just spending some quality time together, like making memories and doing new things and playing two-ball. If you haven't played two-ball, that's a game that I learned this last time in the Outer Banks. And you must play it. It's on a pool table, but only with 2 balls, and you use your hands instead of the pool cues. Look it up. It's amazing. You'll thank me after you've burned all your calories. All right. So now the moment we've been waiting for.
Should we pause for another hour and make people wait?
Ooh, dramatic pause. I love it. Okay, I can't take it any longer. Allie, give us some things that we should be looking forward to for season 2.
Yeah, so like Regan had previously mentioned at the beginning of the episode, we're going to take a break around the holidays to spend time with our family. But we are going to come back for season 2 in mid-January, back better than ever. There's rumors of maybe a new segment coming out, so we'll be posting like every week. It's nothing set in stone yet, so I don't want to give too much information, but we're really going to try to have weekly episodes. We'll just say hinting at definitely travel for sure. That's like a set in stone. But then the spin-off here, maybe some lifestyle stuff. We'll see. Don't want to give too much away, but we really cherish the storytelling aspect of the guests that we've had on our podcast this year. So we want to include more guests with more destinations and more stories that they have to share because, like I said, we really valued those stories that they shared, and we thought that they added a lot of value to our listeners. So we hope that you feel the same way and will enjoy what we have to offer with our guests coming here in season 2. What else do we have coming their way, Regan?
Yeah, and like we want to bring more ways that we can connect with you and that you can connect with us and like really create a community here. So we want to know what you want to hear. Are there specific destinations you want to hear about? Maybe guests. Maybe do you have a really cool story and you want to be on the podcast? Like hit us up. We'd love to chat. Topics, anything. And Allie, I do think that there's one part of that separate segment that we might be piloting. I think we could maybe share the tagline. What do you think?
Okay, we can give a little more details.
Okay, so for our travel episodes, we're going to just stick with the same thing. Escape, indulge, discover. And it's going to bring on a new meaning with this storytelling aspect. And then for our other segment, which name to come, escape, inspire, discover. So we're taking a little bit of a different angle and we've got some really cool ideas for that. And I don't know, you brainstorm, think of what that might mean or something, but we're really excited to get some other topics going on here. And we're really excited to go through season 2 with all of you. And we hope that you'll stick around and look out for some more announcements from us.
Yes, and please follow us on social media so you can get in contact with us, or you can always email us at wanderlustingwives@gmail.com. We're pretty fast with our responses, so connect with us. We would love to hear from you. Like I said, we're not going to be setting our episodes for season 2 out till mid-January, so you have lots of time if you don't hear this episode because you're busy with the holidays and it's taking you a little bit to catch up. We are still planning and would love to hear from you either on social media or via email. So thank you so much for such a wonderful first season. You have blown us away with all of your support. And like I said, we cannot thank you enough. We are just so glad that you continue to show up every other week. And I know a lot of people do reach out individually and support us and give us words of encouragement. So we hear you, we see you, and we thank you for all of your love and support.
Thanks for tuning in to the Wanderlusting Wives podcast. Come escape with us again every other Tuesday. Give us a subscribe and a follow on all of our social media and wherever you listen to your podcasts. And until we chat next time, wander on.